Yes. Chulip is a strange game directed by a strange guy who used to work for a company that also developed strange games. But after that company disbanded, he went on to make his own strange little company and create Rule of Rose and our game of the day. Chulip is a kissing game. You play as Ritsu, a young boy who just moved to Long Life Town with his father, and has simultaneously earned the nickname Poor Boy, because y'all are the only ones who get regular visits from the Disney icon Mickey Mouse of the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Yeah, you being poor seems to be a big thing in this town, seeing as the neighbors even gossip about how poor you are right outside of your own home. After wandering around for a while and meeting some of your new neighbors, you come across quite literally the girl of your dreams, Ohm. This is the person you are destined to kiss, as prophesized by the Great Vagina Tree. Unfortunately, right now you are not even remotely close to her type, as you're just a poor boy with a bad rep. And a mouse. Ritsu then proceeds to write the worst love letter known to man. So bad that even the mailbox refuses to take it, and rightfully so. The mailbox man turns out to be the Mr. Saturn we have at home. Mr. Suzuki is one of the many underground residents that, believe it or not, live under Long Life Town and the surrounding cities. He teaches you how to kiss the right way without getting slapped so that you can strengthen your heart and win over Ohm. I'm not quite sure how potentially spreading mononucleosis to everyone in town will help you kiss your one and only, but I'm just gonna go with it. On top of making your heart stronger through the power of kissing, you will also have to rewrite your love letter, but actually make it good this time. With Mr. Suzuki's love letter set, you should be able to get this done. Unless some walking telephone pole steals it and runs off, and immediately after gets jumped by a barrel, tombstone, and street sign, who, funnily enough, split the letter set and go their separate ways, sending poor boy Ritsu on a mission to find these not-so-inanimate objects and get the love letter set back in order to prove to his future boo thang that he is the one, kissing just about everyone he can get his lips on along the way. It's a pretty simple setup that doesn't really have any plot twists or big reveals in any way. Probably not the most interesting story for a game to have, but Chulip certainly makes up for it by having its own distinct style that makes it like no other game out there. The art design is very cutesy and meshes well with the lighthearted and humorous vibes the game has going on the surface at least. It really helps Chulip not look like it came out 20 years ago, unlike other PS2 games that went for a more realistic style. You could probably tell me that this was an indie game that came out recently and I would probably believe you. Long Life Town is such a cozy and quaint little place, and is always a joy to walk through. Watching the many residents go on about their daily lives, doing whatever it is they do during the morning, afternoon, and evening, whether it be playing their guitar for change in the town square, drinking their problems away, or sweeping the streets. It feels very lived in. There's a bunch of imperfections here and there and objects that fill up empty space that would otherwise look naked. Not too much to the point where it looks cluttered, but just enough for it to feel real. It just makes for a really comfy town, and the people living in the town are just as, if not more, interesting, each one with their own personality and unique design. Almost everyone has a role in keeping this town working the way it should, except for the ones who don't. Batayan, for example, doesn't seem like he has a clear purpose in the grand scheme of things. He's an artist, and a starving one at that, and when you see him around town, he seems unhappy and yearning for something more. It's such an interesting contrast from most other characters in town, who would describe him as lazy or chasing pointless dreams, which you find out is a slightly inaccurate description. At the start of the game, you'll often find him complaining about how he can't find a job, being forced to play his guitar in the streets for change in order to get by. You then decide to hand him a "we're hiring" flyer for the Funny Bone Factory, and after doing an interview, he starts working there, every day from 8 AM to 5:30 PM. You can visit him during the times he works at the factory, And if you talk to him, you'll hear about how he is even more unhappier than before, with him not having enough energy or time to play music, something that was once a big part of his life. Batayan wishes that he could just be fired and go back to his old life. Sure, he was barely surviving, but he'd rather have music than slave away in a factory all day for a thick paycheck. Chulip tends to have a lot of the more deeper themes the game has to offer, hiding behind character questlines that are totally optional and take a bit of time and detective work to actually complete. Themes that are definitely not expected to be found in such a cute and seemingly carefree game about kissing. And this is why Chulip is such an interesting game to me. It not only has the style, but also the substance to back it up. Unfortunately, while the game style is driving and the narrative is riding shotgun, the gameplay seems to be lying not in the back seat, but in the trunk. So yeah, the game revolves around kissing everyone you can get your lips on, but you can't just do it out of the blue unless you want to get slapped. There's usually something you must do first. A bit earlier, I brought up Batayan. He is one of the Long Life Town residents who requires you to complete his quest in order to get a kiss from him. In this case, after seeing him so unhappy at the factory, you become the boss of the company and fire him so he can go back to his old life. And once you talk to him again, he thanks you and puckers up. All of the other Long Life Town residents have their own quests similar to this, where you have to do some investigative work in order to figure out what exactly you need to do to get your smooch, asking for gossip and being at the right place at the right time, things like that. The story-related kisses are quite similar to this, as you do have an objective to complete in order to receive a kiss, but these ones are harder to miss and are also required to finish the game. The puzzles and detective work are really fun to do yourself, save for a few that literally no one would figure out without a guide. Unfortunately, these only make up a few number of kisses in the game. All of the other ones pretty much come down to being at the right place at the right time and waiting until you see pink music notes to press the kiss button. The underground residents live all over the place in the game and only come out of their hole at certain times, giving you a chance to kiss them. You can peek into their homes to see who they are and sometimes get a hint as to how to get a kiss from them. Sometimes it ends up being something like wait until they land a flip, or play red light green light, but most really just come down to sneaking up on them and waiting.
I've been waiting for this!
And because they only come out to play at certain times of the day, you have to do time management. Gross. Everything in Chulip runs on a schedule, and if you don't know that schedule, like every other new player, you're gonna have a bad time. Though schedules do make the town seem livelier, it also makes Chulip a very tedious and time-consuming game. You wait for underground residents to come up. You wait for the train. You wait for the story to progress after you've completed an objective. And when you're not waiting, you're digging in trash cans for things to pawn off in order to make money. But instead of finding stuff to pawn off, you find nothing but dookies everywhere. Big, stinky piles that kill you on impact. And guess what? When you finally do find something of value, you have to wait for the damn store to open up because the business hours are so short. Once you do finally pawn off all those frying pans and refrigerators to buy the item you need, you will have to wait some more until the time you can actually use it. All this mixed up with the fact that you will die constantly due to many things being able to kill you instantly without warning, sending you all the way back to your last save, which was probably 20 minutes ago, because this game has like 4 save locations and 3 of them need to be unlocked by doing a side quest. I consider myself a very patient person, but everyone has their limits and this game got pretty close to mine. The only thing that kept me playing was the fact that the game is charming. Everything from the large unique cast of characters, all with their own interesting beliefs and behaviors, to the lively small town it takes place in. The absurdist humor is also a nice touch, and most of all, I stayed for the homie Chuck. At times, this was enough for me to momentarily forget how painfully tedious Chulip can be. And it got me thinking, when does charm turn a mediocre game into a good one? How much mid would someone put up with because of an amazing art style, or maybe humorous writing, or even a cast of quirky characters? Because this isn't exactly the first time I finished a game with average or mediocre gameplay solely because I liked its style. Y'all about to be real mad at me right now, but it must be said. Earthbound. I played it last year, and as much as I enjoyed my time with it, I can't really say the gameplay is something I would rave about. It's quite literally just Dragon Quest with a new coat of paint, and if the game had not been funny, silly, and stylish AF, and instead given a generic medieval fantasy story, would I have ever sat through the whole game? No, probably not. At times, particularly in dungeons where there weren't any NPCs to talk to or anything quirky going on, I found myself bored, wanting to hurry and get the section over with so that I can get back to the good stuff. The charm it has was the only thing keeping me invested, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And I'm not saying Earthbound's gameplay is bad in any way. Hell, Dragon Quest is pretty solid, so why should Earthbound be any different? It's just a little too simple for my tastes, and at times suffers from that old school JRPG tedium. Tedium similar to what I found in Chulip. It's interesting to see both Chulip and Earthbound be in very similar situations, at least from my perspective. I can definitely see why Chulip got panned by critics and gamer guys and gals as much as I could see why Earthbound got praised. But to me, both are games oozing with charm that makes up for their oftentimes tedious and or just okay gameplay, rarely dipping into the wow, this is shit territory. And as much as I wish I could just strip the personality from both games, just to see how much they benefit from it and how it would affect my willingness to play them, that would be quite difficult and time consuming, and I am a lazy boy who don't want to do no work. But maybe there is a game that does this for us. Recently, I played some of the newest Swery game, The Good Life. Swery being the director of a myriad of cult classics such as Deadly Premonition, D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die, The Missing J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories, and I hope pretty soon Hotel Barcelona, a game he's working on alongside Suda51 and Keiichiro Toyama. The games he makes are often unpolished and at times pretty jank, but are also filled with lots of love and personality that all come together in order to create exceptionally charming experiences that have garnered quite a bit of fans. The Good Life is no exception to this. It is pretty much Deadly Premonition with the Twin Peaks influence turned down a notch. A journalist gets sent to Rainy Woods, England, or as New York native Naomi calls it, a goddamn hellhole. Her mission is to uncover the secrets of Rainy Woods in order to get herself out of debt. Upon arrival, the town welcomes her with open arms and even gives her a place of her own to stay at. And pretty soon, strange things start to happen, such as the town's residents turning into cats and dogs during the night of a full moon, and a bit of murder mystery. All the townsfolk are sitting at varying levels of quirkiness. Morris Downer is an innkeeper that is convinced that scarecrows are out to get him. We got fucking Speed Racer over here. William is a writer who's stuck in writing mode 24/7 and is honestly quite annoying. You have Douglas McAvoy, who runs a construction business in a full set of armor. His cat form even wears armor too, and it's absolutely adorable. Even Naomi is a pretty interesting character. A lot of the charm this game has comes from Rainy Woods and the people living in it, along with the assload of game mechanics and systems that you can play with there. It is certainly a more ambitious game than Deadly Premonition, not only gameplay-wise but also in scale. Deadly Premonition's map pretty much just covers the town of Greenvale, whereas The Good Life happens to have an open world that is much more, well, open, containing several small towns outside of Rainy Woods, landmarks, fast travel locations, and fields. Lots and lots of fields. It is more similar to a Western open world game like The Elder Scrolls rather than a Japanese style one like Yakuza, where it is an open world, but instead of being large and empty, it is tiny and densely packed with things to do and people to see, letting the player experience more by cutting out all the bullshit like walking 7 miles just to continue a quest. I don't know if you can tell, but I much prefer this over the former. Unfortunately, with The Good Life, all the charm that Rainy Woods has is nowhere to be found once you leave the small town. It suddenly morphs into a mediocre open world game for me, a game that I would never consider playing. Even when you visit nearby towns, you'll see that none of them are quite like Rainy Woods. They are filled with nouns such as woman, old man, and boy, instead of actual characters. Almost everything outside of Rainy Woods has the life and personality sucked out of it, and after finding this out, I had to take a break from the game. I had no desire to find out what the surroundings had in store for me or lack thereof. Even if I could still transform into a dog and pee on shit, it just wasn't enough for me. When all the charm was stripped from the game, I no longer wanted to play it. It wasn't something that appealed to me. Would Chulip and Earthbound be the same way if I were to suck all the charm out? Would they turn into boring games that no one would want to play? Maybe. Chulip's only value comes from its aesthetic and its #woke subtext. I can't imagine that there's anyone who would enjoy the game without that, but I think Earthbound would be alright. Though I am definitely a style over substance kind of guy, so it wouldn't be something I would play. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm not really trying to make a point with this video, it's just something I thought about while playing Chulip. I get that it's rare for a game to have near perfect gameplay, writing, and style all at once. Compromises must be made, and games are more than the sum of its parts. Insert other cliche lines. As for me, charm can be more than enough to make up for mediocre or bad gameplay. Obviously, that isn't the case for everyone, and that's cool. It's great that we all like different things. If I've learned anything from this, it would be that I have a high tolerance for shit games, or I only enjoy shit games. I don't know which one is more accurate, but I'm content with either or.